Welcome to Mindful Moments, packed with insights but designed to fit into your busy life. What if the key to advising one of the most powerful men in America, to curating a world-class collection, meant guarding a secret about who you really are? A secret that could destroy everything.
It's an incredible premise, isn't it? And it's the reality Belle da Costa Greene lived, navigating the absolute heights of the Gilded Age, all while concealing her racial identity.
Today we're stepping into her world. Belle da Costa Greene, the personal librarian to the J.P. Morgan. How did she do it?
We're talking early 20th century America. Huge wealth, massive industry, but also really rigid social structures. And race, well, race was everything.
It was a minefield.
Absolutely. We first see Belle around 1906 working at Princeton University Library.
Right. You immediately feel the constraints, right?
Yeah.
An all-male world, she's feeling the pinch financially. Her family depends on her.
Definitely. She's living with other librarians, trying to make ends meet, and her mother's constantly, well, reminding her to be careful.
Be cautious. Don't stand out.
Hmm.
You sense this pressure from the very beginning as a heavy burden.
It really is. And it hints at the bigger secret she's carrying. We get these little flashes of her past back in Washington, D.C. Birthday cards, letters, a different life.
Before the move to New York near Columbia, which was mostly for her brother Russell, right? So he could study engineering.
Yes, the family put a huge emphasis on education. They were incredibly proud of him.
But that D.C. past holds the key. There's this pivotal memory of overhearing her parents.
Ah, yes. Her father, Richard Greener, a prominent lawyer, an advocate for equality.
He absolutely did not want the family to pass as white. He argued against it, talking about character, not bloodlines, about pride in their heritage.
A man of principle, clearly. But her mother saw the world differently. She saw the prejudice, the danger.
And she made a choice. For the children's sake, she decided they would report ourselves as white.
A heartbreaking choice, really. One that severed ties with their past, but in her mind, opened doors for their future.
And that decision created Belle da Costa Greene, a white woman living a borrowed identity.
It required constant performance, constant vigilance.
So then, the potential J.P. Morgan interview comes up. She's prepping like mad, studying his collection, the library plans.
She has to. She doesn't have the usual society background or credentials. Her knowledge has to be impeccable.
Even then, her mother's anxious, asking about her schooling. Always the worry.
Always. And can you imagine seeing Morgan's new library for the first time on 36th Street? Opulent, inspired by the Vatican.
A whole different universe. She walks in, introduced by Morgan's nephew, Junius.
And Morgan, straight to business. Rembrandt etchings, no small talk.
Gruff greeting. Then the tests start. He asks her about the architects, McKim, Mead, and White.
But it wasn't just about architecture, was it?
No, it was about the Stanford White scandal. Infidelity, murder, high society drama. He was testing her awareness, her discretion, her poise.
Could she handle the complexities, the whispers of his world? He needed more than just a cataloger.
And then contrast that with her family birthday. A simple cake, happy chatter, a world away.
Grounding, maybe. A reminder of where she came from, even the parts she couldn't speak about.
Once she's in, her role just explodes.
Yeah.
She's not just organizing books, she's advising Morgan on huge purchases, dealing with powerful art dealers, managing loans.
The demands must have been immense, maintaining that perfect facade, that correct demeanor, while juggling million-dollar deals and hiding her secret.
What's really fascinating is how quickly Morgan comes to rely on her. He seeks her out, trusts her judgment.
Even asks her to read to him the Bible, the story of Joseph. It suggests a bond forming, something beyond just employer-employee.
But then there's the family, particularly his daughter, Anne Morgan.
And unmarried, watchful, maybe a little suspicious of this newcomer. Those subtle, probing questions Belle mentions.
Belle's aware of the whole dynamic, the rumors about Morgan's mistress, Anne's own more liberal leanings. It's a complicated family.
And then Belle gets invited to a Vanderbilt ball. Talk about being thrown in the deep end.
She feels totally out of place, self-conscious about her dress compared to the Vanderbilt opulence. Like she's invisible.
These houses were built to display wealth, pure and simple, intimidating places.
But then, a moment with Mr. Morgan. He actually compliments her. Small thing maybe, but probably huge for her. Validation.
And she handles an encounter with an art dealer, Smithson, showing she belongs in those high-stakes conversations.
Which leads to this moment of real connection with Morgan at the ball. And he says,
he invites her to meet his enemies.
Wow. That's not just an employee anymore. That's an inner circle invitation. A confidant.
Huge step. But back home, telling her sister Teddy about the ball, she focuses on the dresses. Easier, safer.
Her mother, though, brings it back to reality. The danger. The rising tide of racial discrimination in New York. The secret is always there.
Mama pushes her on language studies, too. Keep up appearances, maintain the illusion.
Then another uncomfortable run-in with Anne Morgan asking about Belle's people. That constant threat of exposure.
It's like walking on eggshells. Every conversation carries risk.
Mama makes her take Russell to the opera for networking. But Belle sees how differently people react to his darker skin. The assumptions made.
It highlights the cruelty and absurdity of it all, doesn't it? Subtle differences in appearance inviting totally different scrutiny.
Then the New York Times article comes out. Pretty young librarian wielding the power of the legendary J.P. Morgan.
Suddenly, she's notorious, which is the last thing she wants.
She refuses interviews, tries to stay under the radar, but the attention is there.
And Anne Morgan seems to use it. That encounter with Mr. Wolfe, prompted by Anne, pushing about Belle and Russell's background, suggesting tropical roots, maybe Cuba.
Just relentless pressure, always probing for a weakness in the facade.
And then the whispers start. The economy's looking shaky. The stock market's down.
Belle overhears conversations in Morgan's study. Risky investments. Copper shares.
Then boom, the copper market collapses. Stocks tumble. Banks start failing. The panic of 1907.
Real fear sets in. Even Belle and her mother start stashing cash away. Morgan himself has to stop buying art, even puts the brakes on acquiring a major Caxton manuscript he desperately wanted.
Imagine the atmosphere. And Belle's right in the middle of it. There's this scene where a banker comes to her office, her opulent office, and he's clearly uncomfortable dealing with a young woman in her position.
But Morgan defends her, strongly. Shows how much he trusts her capabilities by then.
He even confides in her, admits his own uncertainty about how bad the crisis will get. She's become his sounding board.
And then, incredibly, she sort of accidentally gives him the key during a game of cards, bezique, and reading Dickens.
Great expectations, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Something clicks for Morgan based on what she says or reads.
Exactly. He immediately engineers this huge deal, U.S. Steel acquiring Tennessee Coal and Iron, a move that potentially sidestepped antitrust laws but helped stabilize the market.
It shows her influence, even unknowingly, and Morgan's decisive, ruthless power.
After that intensity, there's this trip to Washington, D.C., with her mother and brother.
And the mask has to come off, literally, as soon as the train crosses into Maryland.
They have to move to the colored car. The jarring reality of segregation hits them full force, the indignity, the discomfort.
A brutal reminder of the world they navigate by passing in New York.
Arriving in D.C., it's familiar territory at Grandma Fleet's, but not entirely welcoming. Uncle Bellini is cool towards them.
Understandable tensions, perhaps? Mama has to explain her choices to the family, why she felt passing was necessary for her children's future in New York.
A difficult conversation, full of pain and justification.
But then Uncle Mozart shares something significant. He's been in touch with Belle's father, Richard Greener,
who's now in Chicago. And despite everything, he's proud of Belle, still fighting for equality.
That connection, that paternal pride, despite the distance and the different paths, must have meant the world to Belle.
Back in New York, she's navigating the art scene, visiting Edward Steichen's Avant-Garde Gallery 291, showing her knowledge, being playful with artists.
But Morgan finds out, and he's not pleased.
Not overtly about her being there, but he seems troubled. Then he sees a gossip item hinting he might become a modernist collector.
And that's what sets him off. It's not about her race. It's about his carefully curated image, his traditional taste being questioned, a perceived betrayal.
It shows his limits, doesn't it? He trusts her judgment within his established world, but bristles if she steps outside it.
So she has to regain his full trust, which leads to her first big trip across the Atlantic, London, with her mother.
And she has a secret mission: to acquire a major collection of Caxton's early printed books as a surprise for Morgan, a way back into his complete confidence.
It's a bold move. While there, she explores London, soaks it all in, and professionally, she pulls off the Caxton deal, bidding successfully for Lord Amherst's collection.
Cementing her reputation. And during this trip, she meets someone pivotal.
Bernard Berenson, the famous art historian and critic, along with his wife, Mary.
This meeting changes things for Belle. At this point in our exploration, it's worth mentioning that if themes of identity and navigating complex lives resonate with you, the AI audiobook analysis channel Mindful Moments and our podcasts on YouTube delves into similar explorations in literature and biography.
Berenson represents a different kind of intellectual connection for Belle.
Definitely. Back in New York, she attends this incredibly lavish red party. She makes quite an entrance in a cerise gown she bought in London.
And who should be there?
Bernard Berenson. They talk, really talk, about art. He understands her work with Morgan's collection on a deep level.
And he's surprisingly frank about Morgan, isn't he? Recognizes Belle's impact, but also maybe hints Morgan could be limiting her potential to build a truly great scholarly library.
He sees her contribution maybe more clearly than Morgan himself does. He praises her transformation of the collection. It echoes her father's values, that idea of broader impact. She feels truly seen by him.
It's a powerful connection, intellectual and soon personal.
They have dinner, easy conversation. He confesses his deep love for Italian Renaissance art.
And Belle feels this pull, but also this fear, a real relationship with him. Could she lose herself?
They admit their feelings but agree to wait. He needs to prove his devotion is real, lasting.
It's the start in a very intense, very complicated affair.
Around this time, she's also connecting with friends who represent different paths for women. Katrina, the suffragist. Evelyn, the painter.
Women living independently, defying expectations. Belle admires them.
Katrina even tells her that women in the movement look up to her, Belle, as an example of a woman achieving professional equality.
Which must have felt ironic, given the secret she was guarding, but she starts seeing herself, perhaps, as a modern woman career independence. And now this complex relationship with Bernard.
But the demands from Morgan continue. He's getting needier, more focused on that one elusive Caxton, Lamort D'Arthur.
And he makes that chillingly possessive statement.
You are my personal librarian. You must always remember that you belong to me.
It really underscores the power dynamic and his need for control.
While Morgan's away, Belle keeps working, meeting dealers. But she feels a void only Bernard seems to fill.
She decides to meet him in Italy, secretly, against Morgan's likely wishes.
Before Italy, there's that awkward dinner in Paris with Bernard and his wife Mary.
But Mary is surprisingly understanding, reveals her marriage to Bernard is no longer romantic, which frees Belle in a way.
Professionally, Belle scores another win in London, confidently attributing a manuscript, the Da Costa Book of Hours, to the correct artist, Simon Benning, showcasing her expertise even if it lowered the price. She knows her stuff.
Then Italy. It feels like coming home to her, surrounded by the Renaissance landscapes she studied with her father.
Bernard is emotional too, connecting the landscape to his own work. They finally give in to their feelings. Long-anticipated intimacy.
But it's not simple. Bernard shows a jealous streak about her closeness to Morgan, makes comments about her appearance that trouble her.
And then, the devastating discovery. Belle realizes she's pregnant.
The conversation with Bernard is heartbreaking. He doesn't want children.
Leaving Belle with an agonizing choice, she goes through the procedure.
She recovers in London, her sister Ethel by her side, exchanging bittersweet letters with Bernard. The affair has taken a painful turn.
On the ship back, she runs into Anne Morgan again, and Anne's companion, Bessie Marbury.
And Bessie lets slip that Bernard gave Belle advice about Italy. Anne picks up on it immediately.
Anne confronts Belle, veiled threats, accusations about an affair, questioning how Mr. Morgan would react.
But Belle pushes back, subtly referencing Anne's own unconventional relationship with Bessie, their Boston marriage. A tense standoff. Belle's resolve to protect her position with Morgan hardens.
Back in New York, there's a moment of recklessness. At a theater opening, she drinks champagne, meets the gaze of a colored waiter defying her usual caution.
A flicker of her hidden self? Or just the strain showing?
Maybe both. A flirtation with another man goes nowhere, leaving her feeling alone. Then Mama confronts her about staying out, about the risks. Always the risks.
The pressure never lets up. Meanwhile, the hunt for that final Caxton, Lamort D'Arthur, intensifies. Morgan is excited.
Lady Johnstone, another figure in Morgan's circle, observes them, making pointed remarks about Morgan's feelings for Belle.
Belle goes to the auction. The bidding gets intense, way higher than expected.
She keeps going. $50,000. An astronomical sum then. She gets the Caxton from Morgan.
A huge professional triumph. Around the same time, a letter from Uncle Mozart arrives, news of her father struggling in Chicago, but still so proud of her.
Then a complex moment with Morgan. He seems to implicitly ask if they could be more lovers.
Belle recognizes the danger in that. Their partnership, the library, is deeper, more important. She deflects.
Lady Johnstone becomes openly hostile. Morgan is about to leave for Egypt. Belle avoids a direct conversation about Bernard that Morgan tries to initiate.
And then, while he's away in Egypt, the news breaks. 1913, J.P. Morgan is dead.
It hits Belle hard, profound grief. Their relationship was so complex, employer, mentor, confidant, maybe something more. She reads from the Bible in a library rotunda, his library in his memory.
A quiet period follows. Then Jack Morgan, his son, informs her of the will.
She's provided for, generously. And crucially, she's confirmed as the director of the library. Her future is secure. The library is hers to lead.
Relief. Purpose. She reconnects with her family, sees how their lives have changed.
But she's grappling with so much grief. For Morgan, for Bernard in a way, for the last pregnancy, for her father.
She starts reading works by prominent African-American writers, trying to understand her father's world, her own identity, feeling that pull towards the cause of equality. But how, living as white?
There's another brief, unsettling moment at a hotel where her kindness to a colored waiter is met with suspicion, a reminder of the tightrope she still walks.
But then a major step. She travels to Chicago
to finally reunite with her father, an emotional, long overdue meeting. He explains why he left.
Closure, perhaps. Understanding, at least.
And another unexpected conversation. Bernard's wife, Mary, encourages Belle to reconnect with Bernard, says he still cares, and their own marriage is truly over.
Leading to a reconciliation, a renewed intimacy with Bernard, grounded in their shared love of art.
Professionally, there's anxiety when Jack Morgan returns from London talking about possibly selling parts of the collection.
But Jack reassures her the core, the books and manuscripts she prioritized will remain. The library's heart is safe.
Anne Morgan makes one last appearance, a tense confrontation, revealing she knew her father disliked Bessie, implying she's still watching Belle. Belle subtly reminds Anne of her own secrets.
Belle continues her work, triumphs in London even during the war, 1916, reflects on Bernard, but her focus is clear. The library.
She feels strongly about Morgan's legacy, about the library becoming a public institution. She has a direct, forceful conversation with Jack, urging him to fulfill what she believes were his father's wishes.
And finally, in 1924, Belle da Costa Greene, the respected director of the Pierpont Morgan Library, gives a rare interview to the New York Times.
She reflects on her career, her dedication. When asked about marriage, children, she deflects playfully.
The library was her child, her life's work, her enduring legacy.
Belle da Costa Greene's story is just extraordinary, living at that crossroads of immense privilege and profound, dangerous personal choices.
Her dedication, her skill in navigating those treacherous social waters, all while carrying that immense secret. It's truly remarkable, a woman who absolutely defied expectations.
She left such a mark on the world of art and literature. Her resilience is astounding.
And her commitment to that library, it became everything.
We really encourage everyone listening to look deeper into Belle's life, the history she lived through. Think about identity, knowledge, the sacrifices people make under societal pressure.
It raises so many questions relevant even today.
Subscribe to our show for more explorations like this one. Share it if you found this story as compelling as we do.
And if you want the full immersive story, consider purchasing the book, The Personal Librarian. You can find a link in our show notes.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, always think critically about the stories that shape how we see the world.